You know, you did good with your voice inflections. I knew a guy one time who he did amazing. My kids were little kids. They didn't have to have a book. They didn't have to have a DVD, nothing. He just told stories on cassette tapes, and he had like 7 voices. And it was Bible stories, and it was so amazing. They would just sit and listen, all because of the guy's voice inflections. So that was very good. And sometimes if you have a very noisy group of children, the best way is to whisper, and they have to get quiet to hear you. If you have noisy children, don't talk like this all the time because they'll keep talking so they can be louder than you. Okay? However, if you have somebody who's falling asleep, it's very good to wake them up like this. Okay? All right, use your voice, okay? In a positive way, all right? And make it interesting. All right, number 11, sprinkle human interest stories throughout your speaking. However, don't let stories overbalance your emphasis on the word. Sometimes preachers have tended to tell all stories, and they're great stories, but they have very little of the word. So you want to have a good mix of the word. All right, number 12, this is something I had to learn. Don't present yourself as a rose without thorns. Admit your mistakes to the audience so they know you're not flawless. However, you don't have to give all the details. Our message is not that we have it all together. Our message is that we know one who does. Okay? I used to think if I admitted my weaknesses that would be a bad example to my students. Well, that's not the case. You need to be transparent before your students. However, I may tell you I'm struggling with a bad habit in my life, okay? But I don't have to give you all the details. Now, let's assume this is not sin in my life, okay? But maybe I'm struggling with laziness. I don't need to tell you every day that I sleep till noon and the next day till 1 and the following day till 3. You don't need to hear all that. But I want to present myself in a transparent way that will be helpful to you, to the audience, without telling all the details. I don't want people to think I have it all together because I don't. But I know one who does, and that's the important thing, that we present that. So be transparent, but again, you don't have to hang out all your dirty laundry. All right, number 13. You want to read that one?
If you're not given a time limit, set one for yourself. There is a blessing in brevity. The time boundaries prevent careless rambling into superfluous fluff. You need to get right to the point in the time you have. These limits, however, are not always respected. As a result, neither is the speaker. If you get a reputation for long-windedness, you're not likely to be asked for a repeat performance.
All right, that's really important. There's a blessing in brevity. You'd rather people be saying, oh, I can't wait till Samantha speaks again, than think, oh, brother, how long are we going to be here tonight when Samantha speaks? Okay? So you'd rather them be wanting you to speak again than dreading you speaking again. All right? If you're not given a time limit, set one for yourself. Okay? But it's good to learn how to speak in a time limit. On Wednesday nights, we have students give 10-minute sermons, okay? And they have to stay in that 10-minute, and they're evaluated in writing. So it's very good to learn to speak in a time limit. And don't get into being too long-winded. All right, number 14, again, another one of my candy sticks. Don't leave preparation until the last minute. It stifles creativity. One of my things I always say is cramming kills creativity. All right? So don't leave it till the last minute. If you have to teach on Sunday, don't you dare be guilty of picking up that Sunday school lesson on Saturday night at 10:30. You should have been preparing all week, a little bit at a time. I've got a speaking engagement the 1st of September. I'm working on it now. I don't have everything down pat, but in my mind I'm praying, I'm considering, I'm thinking, okay? Now it's a little different if you speak every week. And that's, then you have to have more constant preparation. But don't leave things till the last minute, okay? 15, keep a pad and paper with you for extra thoughts, or your phone or your iPad or whatever you use. before and after you have laid out the skeleton of your speech. I keep paper by my bed at nighttime, or I do keep my phone by my bed at nighttime. If I have one of those wake up in the night thoughts, and you always think you'll remember it in the morning, but you never do, okay? So I'll put it on my phone straight away, or I'll write it on a piece of paper so that I don't forget it. All right, and then lastly, if you lack experience, it can be very helpful to practice your talk in front of a mirror, or at least practice it out loud when you're alone, okay? If I'm going to do, especially like a dramatization where I don't use any notes, I go over it and over it in my mind, rehearsing it before I do it, okay? And that is helpful to do. If you're going to be speaking and you can have notes, it's fine that you refer to those notes, but you don't want to be bound to those notes. You want to be able to keep eye contact with your audience. But if you're reading it word for word, you're going to be bound to them. So I don't make notes like, you need to be saved today or you will be lost. I would just put, be saved or lost, okay? And then I fill in the sentence. You see what I'm saying? So be willing to practice it. There's nothing wrong. I mean, I wouldn't do it in front of anybody, but there is sometimes I've gotten in front of a mirror and practiced what I was going to say. Does that eliminate the anointing? No, it doesn't eliminate the anointing, because God can use you, and God can just, while you're speaking, you've probably experienced it, God just starts using you, and you maybe even say things you hadn't planned. But there's nothing wrong with practicing. All right? Now, let's see, how much time do we have left? Okay. We're going to talk, you don't have a handout about this, but we're going to talk about the importance of gestures and mannerisms, for the good or for the bad. It's important that when you're speaking, that you avoid disturbing or repeated gestures. My husband was training a young man one time to speak, training him for the ministry. And every time that Carl would get up to help in the service, the whole time Carl would walk, the whole time. My husband would say, Carl, stand still behind the pulpit. But no, he would walk the whole time, till it got to be disturbing, because you just kind of had to keep following. Where's he going to go next? What's he going to do? So that became a disturbing mannerism. I knew one man who, when he was preaching, he would have a little piece of hair fall down, a little sprig of hair fall down on his forehead. And so while he was preaching, he'd constantly go like this. Well, before long, you felt like you were going like this. I knew another man, I don't know what it was a nervous twitch he had. And when he would be preaching, he would go like this. Nathan, see it? He would do this when he was preaching, and you thought, oh my goodness, and you felt yourself start doing it. So watch those type of things, and you might even ask somebody you trust, if I'm doing something that's nerve-wracking, just point it out to me, tell me, okay? Have you, they don't usually do it when they're speaking, but you'll see some people that are sitting and their legs are going constantly. Like that. That drives me nuts. I want to just go pat their knees and say, just stop, okay? So try to avoid anything that could be off-putting to people. Another thing that is good is to, when you're speaking, they say you should never go to a pulpit, on your way to a pulpit, be talking. Tonight I'm going to talk about this. No, when you get to your podium, get there, give what's called the dramatic pause, and get your notes laid out, and then begin speaking. And even when you're in the midst of your speaking, if you give a small pause, it can grab people's attention, because they may have tuned you out just because they hear you talking, but then all of a sudden you're silent. And it grabs their attention back. So that's a good thing to do. Now, if the pause is for a minute, that's too long, okay? We're talking just seconds here, all right? And there's a page in your book, a chapter called What Do I Do With My Hands? This is a good thing as well. Read that about what do you do with your hands when you're speaking. Also, when you're speaking, it's important to dress conservatively. Don't dress in something that will draw attention to you more than what you're speaking. Okay? So it's important that your hairdo, your shoes, your dress is conservative and doesn't draw attention away from you. And also, I'm very conscious to be sure when I'm speaking or teaching Sunday school that I have comfortable shoes on. Stilettos for teaching toddlers is not a good idea, okay? So dress sensibly. Now, another thing we want to talk about is body language. And I'm going to talk about body language that we need to be aware of from our audience to help you when you're speaking. Obviously, if someone is sleeping when you're speaking, or yawning when you're speaking, you know there's a problem, okay? And hopefully the problem is that they didn't go to bed on time, but it could be that you're so boring that they're sleeping or yawning. So take note of it, all right? There's more subtle forms of boredom, okay? They tell you this. If someone sits with their arms crossed or their legs crossed, it can be a sign of boredom. Now, I'm not going to say it always is, because sometimes I cross my legs because I'm cold or fold my arms because I'm cold. But if you have somebody in your audience sitting there like this, you can pretty well assume they're not interested or they're bored. Okay? So watch that. They say if you cross both arms and legs, that's a double whammy, that people are bored. But again, it can be somebody could be cold. If somebody's on the edge of their seat while you're speaking, you see them on the edge of their seat like this, what do you think that means? Sorry?
They're interested.
They're very interested. They're very interested. All right? So that is a positive. What do you think this might mean? Somebody's sitting there while you're speaking like this. Sorry?
Either they're praying about what you're saying, or they're really frustrated about what you're saying and trying to ignore it.
Okay, right. You're on the right track there. It can either mean conviction or disagreement. Okay? They don't want to look at you because they're in disagreement, or they could be convicted. All right? Now, another thing that's interesting, have you ever seen people go like this? You know what that means? That means they feel superior on the subject being discussed. Isn't that interesting? I watch that a lot, and when I see people do that, they think they know it all, don't they? But anyway, you just want to watch for things like this. If you have your whole audience like this, you've either got a very good thing on your hands or you've got a very bad thing on your hands. All right? So be aware of body language that people give you. And, you know, I watch when I'm teaching in a class, and if I have too many people that are looking too drowsy, I'm going to do something with my voice to be sure that they wake up, or I may just go over and pat their shoulder. I'm going to watch to make sure that they are paying attention. So walking the audience can be a good thing. As I've said, voice level, surprise gestures can be helpful as well. Okay, so any questions on this? Okay, one last thing we want to talk about is word pictures. All right, so it's important when you're speaking and when you're writing that you give good word pictures. I'm going to give you an example. I had this from a student years ago. They were writing about Stephen, and this was their introduction. The man with an angel face. Friday the 29th of April, cold, wet, and generally a very bleak day for this time of year. Carrying 3 heavy bags, and with the wind and rain hindering my usual brisk stride, I made my way to the church for another day of Bible school. Arriving at the church, I'm greeted with a friendly smile from one of our ladies, who appears a little bemused at my obvious irritable state. I drop the ungodly load I'm carrying and slump into the nearest chair. Then it starts. A bombardment from my mouth of how I've suffered that day. The rain, the wind, the heavy bags, the long walk to the station, the train rides. Oh, such persecution, it's almost too much to bear. Stephen, I am not. Now that's a good word picture. It puts you in the situation. It makes you feel the pain, the agony, but then he puts it all into proper perspective. Stephen, I am not. Okay? So when you write or when you talk, you want to give descriptive words, descriptive sentences. So I'm going to give you, Nathan, another one of our students is sitting here, I'm going to give each of you a couple sentences, all right? And I want you to say it in a more interesting way. All right? Samantha, here's the first one. I was tired, so I went home. Okay, think about it for a minute. Nathan, I'll give you one. I looked in the mirror and was not pleased. Okay? So think about how could you say that or write that in a more interesting way?
Or write it in a more interesting way.
Okay, yeah. I was so tired I went home. Give it to us in a little more descriptive manner. Either one of you can go when you're ready. Okay, Nathan's going to do this. I looked in the mirror and was not pleased.
As I looked into the eyes in front of me, I found myself displeased with my own face.
Okay. That's better. That's good. All right, Samantha?
I don't have one yet.
You don't have one yet. Well, you know, the British have very good descriptive words. In Britain, you're not tired, you're shattered. Okay, that's a descriptive word. Nathan, I'm going to give you another one. It's a beautiful day. Try this one, Samantha. The weather is bad. Okay, how could you say that more descriptively?
There must be 3 seasons in a day.
There must be 3 seasons in a day. No, there's 4, dear. All right, that would be good. But more than the weather is bad, today we had 4 seasons in one day. Okay, that's better. I'm going to give you another one, Samantha. The lesson put me to sleep. Okay, think about that one. Nathan, it's a beautiful day.
The blue of the sky and the green of the grass enticed me to see just how gorgeous the world was outside.
Very good. Okay, good job. All right, the lesson put me to sleep, Samantha.
I subtly put my hands on my mouth to hide my yawn.
To hide my what?
My yawn.
Oh, yes. I had to put my hands on my mouth to hide my yawn during that teacher training class in February. It's a good thing I can't see you good today, Samantha. All right, try that other one. I was tired, so I went home. Nathan, I'll give you another one. The book was good. Okay, either one of you got it?
My heart pacing, skin sweating, eyes glistening, I set the book down on the coffee table.
Okay, very good. We know it's a good book. All right, anything there, Samantha? So you're still stuck on the, I was so tired I went home. Help her, Nathan.
I'm so tired I went home. About the time I ran into the phone pole. Sorry, did she hit something?
No, go ahead.
About the time I ran into the phone pole, I realized I should probably be in bed.
Okay, all right. He ran into the phone pole. All right. So what you want to do is you want to make the person feel as if they're right in the middle of it. Portray the emotions of the situation. Okay, it's not wrong when you're speaking a little bit of emotion. Now, you can't go into fits of tears, which I nearly did in my first class today. I was so overwhelmed with emotion talking about the judges and how God uses ordinary people. But that emotion is always a good, effective means. And, you know, I'm not one that I can say, okay, today you will cry, you know. But as I prayed for my lesson and asked God to use me, sometimes the emotion will overtake me, all right? So portray the emotion, use a lot of adjectives, but don't overdo it. I knew a man one time, even in their church notices, it would be overdone. Today is the most beautiful day of the year that we have ever had. The blooming sunshine, the blossoming flower, da 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 da. It was too much, okay? But the ones that you've both done are good. Those are good. They make it a word picture more than just a statement, okay? And that's what you want to do, whether you're talking or whether you're writing. Alrighty? So, any other questions or comments? Or you want to do some more? You got the idea, Samantha? Right. So, if we look back to our syllabus, okay, so you are to prepare a 3-minute informative speech, giving information about yourself to share with the class next month. Okay? So that's what you're going to do next month. A 3-minute informative speech. So you're going to give information about yourself. All right? Now, in May is when you'll give a 10-minute speech. Okay? But just 3 minutes about yourself. And be sure you're caught up on your reading. You should read up through that part on page 145 for next month. Okay? Very good. So hopefully this internet will be better next month, but I'm glad you've been able to hear and I've been able to hear you. All right? Lord Jesus, I pray that you would help each of us to be effective communicators, effective speakers, doing our best to portray your word, to share your word with the world and with those that we meet every day. Be with us each one, Lord Jesus, and help us to grow and develop more effective communication in your name. Amen. Amen. All right. God bless you. God bless you. We'll resume at 4:30. Now you might want to observe the last one. Who's your next class, Samantha? Is it Minor Prophets? No.
No, poetry.
Poetry. Oh, okay.
Mm.
Poetry.
Yes.
That's Brother Kent.
Okay.
Okay. You want to observe that when you can.
I have a question.
Sure.
And specifically over this class, which is a topic that I thoroughly enjoy, but I realized something as I was listening. And the truth is that even though this is something that I would love and enjoy teaching, how can I teach when I myself have so much to learn?
If you ever think you don't have so much to learn, you've lost the plot.
All the things you're saying, they make sense. In fact, some of them I've heard them before, both last year and this year. I think that if I had notes in front of me, I could probably put it together into a lesson. But the way that you succinctly go from topic to topic to topic, I myself wouldn't be able to do that without experience. And I know you probably taught this before, so you do have that, but how do I start? Where do I
start, like if someone was teaching this class, I would give them my notes and my handouts. Now see, this is something that someone told me years ago when I started teaching poetry. They said rather than you just giving us information or even just doing the overheads like I do, have something we have to do. And that's why I usually develop something that they have to do. So they have to follow along with me.
That's a really good idea.
So the fill in the blank is a very good thing to do. But you have, this is why you have a lesson plan for everything, and even though I've taught this, God only knows how many times, I have my steps laid out, and this is a rough one. A lot of times it's typed, but I have my points laid out. What is a handout? What are the topics? Like downstairs today, it's different with the Skyping because I can't use my overheads or even PowerPoint. Okay, so that's why I have it on papers big that they can see it, okay? I'm not just spewing out information, but there's something to see. That makes a big difference in it as well.
So if I were to use certain images, I think videos can be distracting, especially when you're preaching, but certain images could catch the attention effectively.
Oh, did you stop the camera?
No, this is the after-class club.